All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Manly Mission podcast. This is your host, Farhan Rana, and you're listening to episode 7 of the Manly Mission podcast. Do want to apologize to you guys for not being with you for the past 2 weeks. So, what I'll be doing for that is I'll be releasing two more episodes instead of the usual one this week. And if that kind of cadence really works with my schedule, I'll probably just do that going forward, keep 3 episodes per week, just to really give value to you guys and really help you guys out as much as I can. Um, Before we get started, like I always do, I do want to mention my free 7 day workout plan. So what it is essentially, it's a 7 day breakdown of what you should be doing every day, the muscle groups you should be hitting, the exact exercises, some advice on diet and recovery and supplements. And I really want to give that to you guys for free because I know if I really wanted to charge for this, I really could. But it's totally free to you guys. All you have to do is go to farhanrana.com/workout and you can grab it right there. So let's get started for today's episode. What I have planned for you guys in terms of the topic is, are you proud of the man you've become? That's the question I want you guys to ask yourself. And if you're a woman, just stay tuned. This is to hear my kind of perspective on this, and to really understand how men really grapple with this kind of question. There may be other variations to this question. Are you proud of the achievements you've had up to this point? Are you proud of the personal qualities you've developed to this point? The main essence of this question is really getting to the heart of: are you satisfied? Are you proud of the man that you are, and is that in line with the vision you had of yourself, say maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 5 years ago? And the sort of reason why I even decided to talk about this topic is because this is a question that I've kind of been struggling with myself. Not essentially struggling, but just a question that pops up every now and then. Because I do realize that I'm not where I want to be, and I think at every stage of my life, no matter how successful I become, I will always be asking my question. I'll always be saying that I'm not where I should be. I could be doing so much more, and that's actually a good thing. It's just a sign of having that kind of ambition and that kind of drive to have more out of life, while still remaining grateful. That's the most important thing. If you're grateful and you're ambitious at the same time, I mean, that's the perfect combo in terms of qualities to really have a fulfilling life. Um, but going back to the question, are you proud of the man you've become? And I want you guys to answer this in a few areas, few key areas of your life. Number one, fitness. This is like the core quality, the core aspect you should be looking at. Are you proud of your physical, your physique in terms of aesthetic, how you look, in terms of how much you can how much you can do in terms of performance, your cardiovascular, endurance, all of these kind of things you want to take. Rank yourselves essentially on a scale of 1 to 10, and see where you rank on these different elements of your fitness. And if you're really honest about this, I don't want you guys to be like, yeah, I'm in decent shape. I can kind of sort of see my abs. So I'm going to put myself at a 7. Really ask yourself, really compare yourself to other images on the internet. I know that can, if you go at it about the wrong way, you can have like self-esteem issues. But in terms of this kind of exercise, you really wanted to look at um, what does a good physique look like. I think that'll go a long way in terms of really informing your perspective on where you are and where you can be. And I'll tell you guys, like, I'm definitely not where I need to be. Like, I have a long way to go. I think what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 months or so is really bulking slash maintaining, because I'm at a body weight where I think I have a good amount of muscle mass at this point, and really go on a aggressive cut for like 2 months. So from May-ish onwards, and really see where that takes me to in terms of body fat. I'm really trying to get to like 15% at least. Um, See if we can push it to like 12, and then when I'm at that point, bulk up again and um, really put on the muscle where it's like lacking or where it needs more definition, that kind of thing. So that's a bit about what I have in mind. So in terms of physique, In terms of fitness, really ask yourself, where am I and where can I go from here? Um, Second most important thing, in terms of like what you should be focusing on, is your finances, your success. Where are you in terms of that? Um, it's totally alright if you're a younger guy and you're in school, or even if you're in grad school like I am, and you're kind of getting on your way to hitting those milestones that you've set for yourself. Um, or even if you're working, really ask yourself: is the current kind of income, or is the current kind of job that I have at the moment with all its responsibilities and what it demands of me, where can I take this? Can I up my income while still keeping the same kind of hours so it's more ROI in that sense? Or can I pivot myself to a different career or start my own business and have more leverage that way? Really ask yourself these questions because these are going to be really important for you in terms of really looking at yourself. And I'll talk about this later. Looking at yourself like 5 years down the line, being like, okay, am I proud of what I've done at this point? Did I regret anything? And I'm giving you this kind of roadmap now, because this is a roadmap that I'm setting for myself, and really looking at, I don't want to be in a position 5 years, even 3 years from now, where I'm like, crap, I could have done so much more. If I just put in the time, if I just had the right kind of questions that I was asking myself on a daily basis and really pushing forward on those, like, I don't want to be in that position. And I don't want that for you guys either. Um, so on that point, really just ask yourself, how can I optimize this even further? How can I improve my current level of finances, my success in terms of where I'm going? And not necessarily in terms of assets or what you can buy, um, because those things are materialistic things. Those are, uh, I mean, so I'll say it like this: they're nice to have if you have a nice car, if you have a nice house, if you have some nice luxuries. Those are definitely nice, but those I mean, they come with their own kind of responsibilities, on their own shackles, or their own kind of like, now you have this thing, now you need to take care of it. If you bought a brand new car, you need to pay for maintenance costs. You need to worry about gas. If it's like a more expensive car, obviously you won't go with the regular basic fuel. All these questions come up, and with assets, like, you really want to be careful about how you choose those. Obviously, live as minimally as possible for as long as you can. Um, there's no need to show off with any of this. Um, I still have the 2005 Toyota Corolla S. Emphasis on S because it just makes all the difference, I think. That my parents bought in 2014, I want to say. Still runs fine. Some of my friends, they might have new cars, or they might be thinking of getting new cars. Totally fine. That's what they're doing. That's where they are in life. That's not a priority for me. Even if I had the kind of resources to buy a newer car, um, I don't see the point in it right now. Just because I don't want that responsibility on me. I don't want to put myself in a position where I get this thing and then it's just like constant headache in terms of like, okay, now it needs to go to maintenance, or this I bought this brand new, but this thing is not working. Like, I don't want the headache right now. So what I'm gonna do is just really take my Toyota Corolla S, really just run into the ground as much as and run it as long as it'll go, and then just see what I want to do with it. Obviously, like, I wouldn't mind having a nice car, but it's one of those things that I don't want to worry about it right now. And when I get to that point, I'll you guys will see. Hopefully, what I end up getting. But that would be the second area of your life that you want to look at: your finances, your success, and really ask yourself those questions that I mentioned in the beginning of this um, part of it. Um, Next would be your overall kind of mental, your emotional state, and how you're dealing with life on a day-to-day basis. Um, Now, you probably didn't expect this. You probably didn't expect me to go in this direction. You were probably like, okay, what else? Am I proud of myself in terms of my mental state? Like, how does that, like, what's that what got to do with anything? I think that's really important because if you want to get anything out of life, and I struggled with this for a long time, and at times I even do now, um, you need to have the proper kind of mindset. You need to have the proper kind of understanding of how things work and where you are in terms of your mentality, your mental health, all this kind of stuff. And I know this might sound like a little wishy-washy, like hey, like mental health, all this kind of stuff. I think it's really important. And the way, if you have any reservations about how mental health is discussed and what it kind of is perceived as, is this kind of like I don't want to call it like manly mental health. I mean, it does have a nice ring to it, but there is a way for men to have a proper mental state and to really process things in the right way, be in control of their emotions, have the right kind of ambition and drive. I mean, these are things that come from having a grounded mental state. I should probably call it that, having like a grounded state in terms of your emotions and really dealing with life in an objective way, as objectively as possible. Really looking at the facts, what can I do, and really having this kind of empowering state to yourself in terms of saying, there's so much that I can do with my life. Just take an honest look at your life and ask yourself, with the resources that I have currently, even if they're not optimal, even if things are not the way that I want them to be, do I have, honestly, like the kind of resources that people even 100 years ago they would consider them luxuries. They would be like, "This is amazing." Like having, I'm looking at myself. I'm looking at the cell phone I'm recording from, this mic, all the fancy gadgets and everything that I have to really set myself up for success. I'm looking at all of that. I'm like, why shouldn't I succeed? Like, there's no reason for me to not succeed. I mean, it's just like it would be something would have to be terribly off in terms of my mentality for me to be like, yeah, this is not going to work. I have everything at my disposal, but I'm still not able to make it. I mean, at that point, it's really just a mindset game. And if you're struggling with that, if I were to give you a challenge in terms of like similar to what I'm doing, set up a podcast with 50 episodes by the end of the next year, could you do it? Could you have the kind of consistency? And the quality doesn't really matter so much, because I know when I look back at this in in a year's time, I'll be like, that quality in terms of my content and what I was saying, I could have improved it so much more. But that's a process. That's the beautiful part of this. You get to a point later in your journey with all of this, and you're like, I'm so glad I went through the sort of rough phase, the ugly phase of all of this, and I came to a point where like I'm so much more refined. I have a better understanding of the skill or the craft that I was working on, and I'm so glad I stuck with it. And a huge part of that is just mentality. And I'll be honest with you guys, the past 2 weeks when I didn't record, part of it was I was busy with grad school and all of the classes and stuff. But even that's an excuse. If I'm totally being honest with myself, with you guys, I these podcasts, they honestly take like maybe 30 minutes to record, from beginning to end, and to edit them and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't really take too much time. Um, but I was in a position where like I just didn't do it, and a huge part of that, if I'm being really honest with myself, is my mentality. Um, I was like, this is it doesn't really matter if I miss like 1 or 2 weeks. Like, it's not, people are not going to care, but it makes all the difference. And I want you guys to really ask yourself this question. Going back to the original question that we had, are you proud of yourself in terms of the man you become? Are you proud of how you deal with life? Are you proud of like how you deal with challenges, how you deal with setbacks, how you deal with even successes? And do you let them get to your head, or do you let them um, really like rest in terms of like you can take the foot off the gas pedal and be like, okay, like I'm chilling now that I've had like a little bit of success. Um, Ask yourself these questions, because they're going to be really important in really informing your perspective 5 years down the line. And I'm telling you guys, I know this for myself, and some of you guys might understand this as well. 5 years is not like a long time. Um, it's really not. If I look at the past 5 years, I mean, I'm just like, how did they go by so fast? And I know I have improved a lot in those 5 years, in this past 5 years. Um, Only recently did I start my business, my podcast, and all this kind of stuff. But it really came at the tail end of me experimenting with a lot of different things and seeing how I could have impact in this area. So in a sense, it's a success for me to start my business now, because it's really coming from a place of self-discovery and really understanding how I can create a business out of this, essentially. So I'll say those are the three main questions you should be asking. I could add maybe some more, maybe questions around relationships, or um, maybe relationship could be a fourth one if you want to add that one. And I think it's really important to have some understanding of how your relationships are going. um, it kind of builds off on the third point, where like how you deal with different people in your life and how they treat you and how you treat them and all this kind of stuff. It's really understanding. um, some people are just not meant to be in your life. That's just how it is, either by your choice or by them not being there, or them something going wrong. I mean, it's just like some people are not meant to be in your life, and it's up to you to make the best of it. You can't like moan and complain and be like, things could have been different. Like I miss that friend, I miss that family member. I mean, you can't let that get to you. If you have a mission, and this podcast is called a manly mission, you should have a mission to like set yourself up for success. Um, and to do so in a manly way is to really look at the facts and push forward, even though times are hard. Um, that's what I'll say on that. So another dimension to all of this is looking at. Now we're kind of shifting gears from the questions I was posing to you guys, and now it's really looking at your daily habits and the daily things that you're doing. Are you optimizing yourself in terms of like the daily habits and things you do, and are they actually good for you? Um, I talked about this on a previous episode where I said that we're all consistent. We're all consistent, but some of us were just not consistent on the good things. You can reference that in terms of what I'm saying on this topic. Um, but really, the point I want to make with this is that have an honest examination of what you're doing with your life, and ask yourself, am I doing any destructive habits? First of all, those, if you just cut out those, like time wasting on your phone, on like anything that destructively you can think about. If you just cut that out, you would see an immediate benefit in your life. You would have so much more clarity, so much more time to really put towards your endeavors, and or just to do your normal like things you do on a daily basis. You would have so much more mental clarity, like I said, and those would put you in a better position just almost immediately. And if you're already working on that, or you've kind of surpassed that, um, really ask yourself, am I doing something to really benefit myself a couple years down the line? Am I reading books that will really help me in my craft, or am I just reading general self-development books, and can I use those to really develop my mindset? That's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. And a good book I'm reading right now is The Magic of Thinking Big. I've just started reading it, and it's a little dated in terms of like the examples and the kind of scenarios that the author describes, but the mentality and the kind of perspective is really, it's timeless in a sense. I haven't read too much about it. What I might do in a couple of weeks or so is really do a book review on that, um, and really give you guys my take on it, what I learned from it, and what I'm doing with that knowledge. Really, how I'm applying it. Um, so that would be one thing. Am I reading? Am I doing regular exercise? I mean, that kind of touches on what we talked about in the very beginning of this episode. Um, really have an honest examination of your life and what you're doing, and I think that'll put you like a really far ahead of like where you could be, if you didn't do these things. Um, Now, I mean, the last thing, I don't have too much to say on this. This is really going to be an experiment on your end, really answering these questions, and um, looking at yourself and being like, where could I improve? And the last thing I'll say to you guys is, you don't want to regret anything. I said 5 years, but even 2 years, 3 years from now, even a year from now, you want to get started immediately on the things that you know will make a difference in your life. And you all know this. You all know what you should be doing. Like, sure, okay, maybe you need help with specifics, but in terms of like, if you have an honest image of yourself and you know where you need to improve, you know what you need to do. Um, it's just a matter of consistency. It's just a matter of having the right mindset. It's just the matter of having like the right person alongside you. Um, maybe virtually in terms of like a YouTube video, or maybe even physically, like a friend who can push you along. You have all these things on your side. So that I w- I would venture to say that in this day and age, with so much information on our hands and with all the kind of luxuries that we have, um, maybe someone watching this is from a country that doesn't have that. I would say even to you, you can still improve yourself massively in just a year. Not to mention what you could do in 5 years. Um, no question about what you can do in 10 years if you really just kept this up. Um, yeah, it's just like I'm just thinking about it. There's so much that we can do, and if we just like stop selling ourselves short and stop saying like, yeah, what I'm doing currently is just like it's good. I don't need to worry too much. Like, why take the headache of like improving when I can just be when I'm fine with what I'm doing right now. And if that's you, if that's your current level of ambition, then don't complain. Then why you don't have the things that you want to have? If you're really being honest and you're really totally comfortable with what you have going on for you currently, then don't complain. But don't then look at guys like me who will really put in the work and be like, why did they get that? You know why we get that. We got that because we put in the hard work. Um, and we really went after what we wanted in life, and that's just where things took us. Um, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. This was a little bit of a shorter episode. Really really getting you guys to self-examine, ask yourself these important questions, and really take it from me as like maybe a big brother or like a brother just in the general sense, someone who has your best interests at your side. Because I don't have a brother, but if I did, these were the kind of conversations I would be having with him, especially if he was younger, and really just telling him like, hey, dude, like you have so much on your side, like there's no reason why you can't succeed, and I want to help you. Like that's the whole point of this YouTube channel. That's the whole point of this podcast. If you're watching it, if you're listening in, that's the whole point of this. There's no other purpose of this. It's really to help uplift guys from this state of like I don't know what to do. I don't have the motivation. I don't have the kind of person on my side who I can relate to. Um, Pushing me along or giving me the right kind of information. That's where I come in. That's why like I'm helping you guys as much as possible. Um, and I really want you guys to take this to heart. The kind of advice that I'm giving you. Okay, I mean, sure, maybe there's like you could disagree. We could disagree on some things, um, but you know this in your heart. Like you have all the room to improve in your life, and that's where I want to take you. Um, and we'll get there, inshallah. Don't worry about it. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap up this episode of the Melly Mission podcast. This was episode 7. Once again, I want to remind you guys if you want to have a 7-day workout plan all ready for you with the exact exercises, advice on meals and nutrition and recovery, I've created a guide for you just on that. You can go to farhanrana.com/workout, grab it right there, start implementing it, and you'll see your gym sessions become so much better after that. But we'll wrap it up right there, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your host, Farhan Rana, and I'll catch you guys another time. Bye.